Good morning, Keith. How are you?
Good, man. How was it? You were in the Bay Area visiting your son, Chris, Brooke, and Andy, man. How's everybody doing, the baby?
They're doing great. Despite the plague, everybody's healthy and happy, and we got to do a lot of things together, mostly outside stuff, but the Bay Area is just like a playground for grown-ups. So it was a fabulous experience. I've been there many times, of course. He went to school there, so I've visited many times. And before I had him, even as a professional lawyer, young lawyer, I used to get my medical experts out of UC San Francisco, great medical school. So I love the Bay Area, but you can't you can't afford to buy anything. You spend $1 million, you get a flat and maybe running water, maybe not.
Maybe not. It's all going away anyway. So
yeah, that's right.
It's all going away.
It was a great time. Thank you for asking.
You're welcome. Rick, I thought we'd do a show. This is titled after my friend Michael. He inspired this particular show. And so Michael is a really good athlete. He played minor league baseball before he threw his shoulder out. He's just, every time I see him twice a week, man, and he just has great stories, man. But it's the way he tells them. One of the stories he talks about is like his stepfather, who he considers his father, would tell him, like, draw wisdom for him all the time when he was growing up. Telling him like these little gems about living his life that would save him a lot of suffering. And Michael would always be like, shut up, old man, you don't know what you're talking about. And then when Michael got into his 30s, he's like, oh man, that was gold. I should have wrote that down.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. And I think about all the people in my life, man, who were dropping wisdom like that for me. I couldn't even hear it. They like, slow down, let that go. I'm like, you don't know what you're talking about. This situation is different, and no, it's the same situation. I mean, my friend Matt told me, when you see musicians do things on the piano, on the guitar, and you're like, oh my God, that's great. There's nothing new there. They've been doing this. It's been so many savants that have come through, playing instruments. They've done it. It's been done. So the wisdom is all there, man. It's timeless. So one of the things that Michael and I started doing was playing pickleball. I know when I mention pickleball, people start laughing, unless you play pickleball. So it's a really fun sport, very social. And what's interesting about it is that Michael's a good player. He played tennis, he's a baseball player. I never played a racket sport or anything with hitting a ball with some kind of instrument like a bat or a paddle or racket. So the sport is kind of different to me. Athleticism wise, I'm fine. But the angle of the ball, the trajectory, how to hit a soft shot, how to put a spin on it, like I didn't learn how to do those things. So anyway, Michael's really good. So occasionally Michael will hit a shot, and he'll hit a shot, and it'll be a good shot, and I'll call it out. And Michael's like, you know what they say, if you can't make the play, make the call. So I thought that'd be the show. If you can't make the play, make the call.
Oh man, I'm stealing that one from. I'm gonna have to pay you royalties the rest of my life. That's a great line.
Then I gotta pay Michael. And so what I think about it is that if I can't make the play, and the play for me is whatever happens in life, responding with acceptance in that moment. It doesn't mean that I can't take intelligent action that's rooted in peace and kindness to improve the situation. As long as it's rooted in kindness and it's rooted in peace and love, I can take intelligent action. But first, I must accept it the way it is. So that would be making the play, or bringing love and compassion to people and giving them grace would be making the play. But instead, I live most of my life making the call, which is blaming people, making them wrong, being superior, judging them, making others an enemy. That would be the call that I would make instead of making the play. And every day, life has this way of giving you another time in the batter's box. Every time life's like, okay, you're up again. Like,
that's right.
Like you missed that fastball again. Okay, I'm gonna slow down the pitch for you. Okay. You're still whiffing, because you're trying to make the call instead of making the play.
That's right.
And you make the play when you're on the path, being loving, being kind. So I just thought that we do a show like that. I'm Rick, thankfully, I'm making more plays than calls these days.
Oh man, that's wonderful. That's really an elegant way of making us remember how easy it is for the ego to choose an excuse instead of just looking at the truth that's beyond your mind. If you can see the truth beyond your mind, you're in a whole different relationship with your own life. Um, Part of the reason I think people make the call instead of making the play is that they're trying to deal with some level of injustice. They think that maybe they've gotten so many bad breaks, they're entitled to make one for themselves. Instead of realizing that the bad breaks and the good breaks are no different. They're really the same. They're just things that come at you, and you have to have an attitude for dealing with both. You are the one who puts a label on whether it's just or unjust. And it's your ego that decides particularly well that it's usually unjust and that you didn't get a break. And so you start making the call as a habit in life instead of making the play, which is what the practice is. And so I think one of the things that we have to do when we're on the path is to make sure that we're mindful of the fact that the way we are, how we are right now with nothing added, just our naked selves, it's largely determined by our past attachments, our desires, our fears, things that we've done poorly, things that we've done well. All of that cornucopia of experience is brought you to this point. And it'll continue, however, not to subside. It's going to double down. As you age, you have other problems that you didn't have when you're younger. Maybe you have more money, but you have maybe health issues. So life is just continually going to throw stuff at you. And the practice is a way for you to get beyond that typical narrative that you have about life is unjust and I'm not getting what I want. If you can abandon the desires, or if you can minimize the desires, if you can get rid of some of your opinions, if you can let your thoughts kind of rise and fall without judging them, just like you watch the ocean, the wave goes up, there's a trough, it goes down, it goes up, it goes down. If you recognize that your thoughts are just your thoughts, they're not real. Those are kinds of things that will help you get past this idea that you need to square up the world. You need to make the call instead of making the play. If we just simply get beyond that idea that we're the center of the universe, good things happen.
Yeah, you said it, Rick. And it's, making the call or making the play shows up in so many different ways, man. You're on a flight and it gets canceled, gets delayed, the rental car is not there. There's a choice. You can make the call, complaining, being upset, being put out. Yeah, you can make the call, or you can make the play and accept that moment exactly like it is, and find something else that you can do. Whether it's like, I'm with a friend or I'm with my significant other, we're gonna watch a movie, or or we got our watches on. Let's get some steps in, or
That's right.
let's just sit down together while we're waiting. I mean, it's going to be a while, and let's just talk about what we're grateful for each other. Let's share a childhood memory that brought us joy, and how can we create that in our lives right now in this moment? I mean, like, that would be making the play. There's change happening at work and you're feeling overworked or underappreciated. You can complain about that, which is making the call, or you can be like, I can look at this change as an opportunity, and the opportunity may be practicing acceptance or learning how to be with change and be with it peacefully. You have a coworker who is not very kind to you, who not only says things, negatively about you under their breath, but to others. Like, that's their path. That's the call that they're making. You can make a play, and your play is to understand that's unconscious behavior, and that's their path. Mm-hmm. So every moment that shows up is an opportunity to either make a play or to make a call. And the practice helps me make a whole lot more plays than what I used to do. And I was making a ton of calls. I didn't stop making calls, man. I was like, it was crazy. I didn't even know there was a play to be made. I didn't even know. I thought I was making a play. I thought I was making a play. But all I was doing was making calls, man. That was it.
Oh yeah. And I think once you get used to making the play instead of making the calls, it becomes almost effortless. Don't you find that? It's like your workout schedule or your eating patterns. We learn not to eat a lot of sugar, or we learn to avoid alcohol or cigarettes or whatever things that are harmful to us. And then after a while, it's not like, it's in any effort at all. It's effortless about it. So you can embody compassion in the same way. You don't have to try to be compassionate. You can just naturally be compassionate, because that's a practice that you have in your life. You're mindful of the need for understanding there's a difference between you and the next guy, and you don't know what his or her history has been. Everybody is suffering in a way that you and I have no way of knowing. No way of knowing, no matter who they are. They could be wearing a tuxedo. They could be living in a box in the corner. You have no idea what they've gone through. And so, you have to have this general patina, I think, this general way of looking at all of people and life in general in a compassionate way. And same thing with folks who experience something wonderful. You're an excellent example of this, where you provide people with this sense of empathetic joy, this real idea that you're happy for them when they do something well, especially in the gym, but also in your coaching and also with your work at Mayo's. It's always about really, truly loving the fact that they've done something that they're proud of, and you're sharing the joy with them. Those are the kinds of things that become effortless when you're making the play. They're effortless. But you have to put yourself in a position where you want to do that. And a lot of people struggle with this, because people have this goofy idea that love is limited. That if I give you love, then that takes away how much love I got left to give Elmer Fudd or my wife or whoever. And it's nonsense. It's just not true. Love is, in essence, in my view, a bottomless pit. Yeah. You can be loving, and you can be infinitely loving all the time. Now, that doesn't protect you or ensure against any kind of bad thing happening. You still will have the same horrible things that you're experiencing now. They're not horrible, but the crap that bugs you, it's still going to happen when you're compassionate. That's still going to happen when you have empathetic joy. But what you will have with the practice that you don't have with your ego is a sense of equanimity, a sense of balance, a sense of inner peace. And once it becomes effortless for you, it's like water off a duck's back. It's the way you approach life. It's the way that you go through life that makes it worth living and not griping about.
I agree, Rick. Man, about the effortless part, a lot of people, you've known me, man, for a long time. So you can speak to this about what Keith 1.0 was like, and, and the difference between him and Keith 2.0. And, people will ask me or make comments about like how accepting I am about situations, and like, man, you just were able to walk away from that situation or take space. It was because I just had practice, man. But the difference is when I walk away and take space now, I'm doing it out of compassion for all the parties. Before, I was walking away to punish, to withhold love and connection. I don't do that now. It's just completely different. And people say, man, you're always like, when I'm around you, like it's always like great to be around you. Why is that? Well, you wouldn't want to be around Keith 1.0 all the time. I can tell you that. But what it is because I formed habits. I created habits so I could show up this way, and to your point, effortless. So like if you ever get an email or a text message from me and stuff like that, it always starts with a greeting. Like, and the reason to start with that, because I had to create a habit that made being kind, being thoughtful, being in the present moment happen. Like I could easily type out a few letters, like maybe 5 letters that symbolized, hello, how are you doing? I could easily type that out and it like an algorithm, and it'll do it for me. But I don't do that because I want to be present for every keystroke so that I'm there with the person I'm communicating with. Like that's a habit, because I want that to be how I normally show up, as breathing. Like it's not like, let me get these formalities out of the way so I can go ahead and tell you what I really want. No, like what I really want is secondary. What I really want I mean, what the purpose of this is to be present for you right now, to be present for us right now. And when people say that you know, you are, Keith, you're always kind, dude, I beat on this like it was my craft, like it was my job. Like I made it a habit. Like I want to show up with empathetic joy, to be kind, like it's breathing to me.
Yeah.
What does it take to be like that? I want to be like inner peace. What does it take like that? And what it took was to get into that batter's box every time. And I just kept whiffing and making calls and making calls and making calls. And the umpire's like, go sit down, go sit down, go sit down. Get back in here, get back in here. And I just kept making bad calls after bad calls, and just kept swinging and missing. And then one day I was like, let me see if I can be present here. Let me see if that pitch will slow down for me. Then I started to see the threads on the ball, Rick. They started to turn slower for me. And then I started making plays, stop making calls. But to make those plays, I had to put habits in place that even when this moment shows up, I'm going to be kind. Oop, I whiffed again. I made another call. Oop, I missed it. Oh, I got the fifth one. I'm five. I'm 1 out of 100. And then it became 3 out of 100. Yep. And then my average started to climb. But it's because I made a commitment that I wanted to start making more plays than making calls. And that's been like the key for me. People were like, man, Keith, I want to get to the space that you're in. Dude, you just looking at one moment in time that I just happen to be conscious right now. I mean, I walk out of this room, somebody steps on these new shoes, I'm back to making plays. I mean, I'm back to making calls. And so it just requires me to just get up into the box every single time, and everything that happens, just an awareness that I can make what I used to do and make calls, or I can begin to make plays. And I'm more on the side of making more plays than calls now.
You know, you've just described beautifully the entire theme and the beauty of the movie Groundhog Day.
Yeah.
That's exactly what he did. Bill Murray starts out as an insufferable, arrogant newscaster and ends up becoming Mother Teresa by the end of the film. And it's because he beats his head against so many objects, and he hurts so many people, and he roughs up himself, and he doesn't get it until he finally, we don't know how many years pass, how many lifetimes pass, but he finally gets to the point where he realizes that's a dead end. Yeah. And so when you get in the batter's box and you finally are able to see that ball, which is coming at you, and it looks like a beach ball, it's easy to knock it out. It's effortless because you've done the work.
Exactly. Man, Rick, thank you so much, man, for a great show, for riding with me on Michael's metaphor there, man. I love you, man.
I love you, Keith. I'll be better at writing back emails and making sure that I don't rush off into my, into my needs right away.
All right, sounds good, man. I love you.
Adios.
Adios.